Right, Anna. So we're going to start with a really simple, or seem apparently simple question. Tell me about the process with which you created your piece of work.
So my practitioner was Pina Bausch, and I from the documentary Pina, I learned like her dancers said that she'd ask them a lot of questions about like, or she'd like give them an emotion and ask them to show her how that would make them feel or how they carry that within their body. So that's the kind of process I kind of explored the most. So I just like discuss with Harrison and Emily what um like the kind of scenario was, and then we'd like talk about how that would make someone feel, and then how that would be shown, like how they'd show that through gestures, or how, through how you carry that in your body and how you'd show it.
Okay, so can you give specific examples of the kinds of questions you asked and the kinds of answers they gave, as well as any issues you may have encountered in the process of translation?
So like if you were, like we just kind of discussed, if you were, so Emily was more kind of trapped than Harrison. So if you were trapped, you'd obviously feel quite heavy at times and quite like down, and then that would be shown through like heavy movement. So there's a bit where she has the scarf on her shoulder, and Harrison moves her, and that's what moves her, but it's like her shoulder pulls her down, and then, do you know what I mean? So she's quite grounded and heavy, and we just kind of discussed that that would kind of convey that emotion the best.
Fabulous. So, if we're thinking about the way in which you created the actual movement material itself, the body of the movement material, what would you say the ratio or the weighting was between the tasks you gave, improvisation that you did collectively, and set movement that you developed for your dancers?
Um, oh, that's yeah. I think it was there was a lot of talking, and like, say I'd give an idea, and then we like they'd help how they think they could do that best with what they're good at. So like we just like, I'd maybe suggest like a move or like how I want them to move, but then they'd like help interpret that to make it look the best.
Okay, and how would they, through this making it look the best, how did you assess what was best for your piece?
We just try loads of different, like trial and error. We just try loads of different things, and then I just decide what I thought fitted.
Okay, so tell me about this idea of fitting within your piece. So what was I know that from viewing your piece, roughly what the content was, but can you give me a trajectory of what the intention was at each stage within the piece of the work?
So I wanted it to start off just kind of showing how, like, so if it was like a relationship for say, and then the scarf was like the only thing holding them together, and Emily is like sort of trapped, but Harrison still wants to keep this relationship and she wants to break free. So in the beginning I had it more where he was controlling her, and then that's when her movements were quite slow and heavy and quite repetitive, and then about halfway through it switched and she broke free from the scarf, and then that's where she went a bit crazy until the end when she thought she was free and he got her again.
Super. If there was one thing you could change or modify about your process or the final piece of work, what would it be and why?
I think I'd have more of a contrast between when Emily was more calm versus when she was more crazy, because I just think that would help define the two stages a lot more and make it a lot more clearer to an audience that, this is when she's feeling really trapped, and then this is when she thinks she's free.
Super. So thinking about the month or two that you worked on this piece of choreography, what were the main things in your own practice that changed, and what will you take away from this process?
I think I'd definitely take away that, like, obviously not everything works, but trial and error and trying a lot of different things and seeing what works the best, I think worked the best for me, because then I can like visually see it more than trying to come up with it in my head. So I wasn't very good at like going away and thinking about how I wanted them to move. I was better at like having them both in front of me and like just working with them whilst they're there so I can visualize it better.
Sure. That's great. I think that's all the questions I have. Is there anything you'd like to add about your piece of work, or how you made it, or what you learned from it?
No, not really, I don't think.
Fabulous. Right. I'm going to stop the recording